it whatever you need. I've bent the little strap a little bit, placed it down. I'm going to put the floor there. And now I'm just going to create a line to create an infinity curve. So you have a nice, great, casual curve in the background. So nothing is harsh. You don't have any harsh lines. So I'm going to go to my little line, hold shift to create a dead straight line. Then I'm going to create the curve. Then I'm going to create straight up. At the moment it'll just be a line. So you want to give it some thickness, so you got to extrude over here. Go straight down to extrude. Start, pull out this number until it's acceptable. There we go. That should be big enough. You can always adjust it afterwards. Convert it to a poly. Now I'm just going to center the pivot. There we go. Okay. Now we've got the little floor under the watch. I might just need to move that a little bit lower, or actually everything a little bit lower, so it touches slightly. I'm going to group the watch. So it's actually watch group. I don't attach it into one mesh, please. You don't have to attach everything into one editable poly. It's going to be a nightmare. Just group it. So then you can select it and there's your group. Okay. So you don't have to worry too much about it. Now I'm going to show you materials, but I'm just going to touch on it. It's just for presentation purposes. You're going to press M on your keyboard. Or you're going to go to the top here next to the teapot where it says render setup. Right next to it says material editor. By default it is set to slate material editor, this one. This is node based. Let's not confuse you off the bat. It's actually simple to use once you get the hang of it. You just select what you want and let's go standard material. I'm going to go and skip the mental ray and go standard material. You'll notice it puts in a little node. And then you just plug things into the little nodes, whether it's your ambient or your specular. But I like to confuse you less, so let's go to compact mode. So there's modes, go to compact mode. These are just exactly the same shaders and standard setup. It's just a little bit easier to understand. As you can see, I've already got a colors, a dark gray, a light gray. I just want to create a nice background color, so I'm going to call it, they generally 01 default, 02 default, name it whatever you want. I'm going to call it background color. These are called shaders. If you're ever watching something and they say the shader was hard to get right, it's not the texture that's on the surface, but it's how the surface reacts to everything around it. It's a shader. A texture is the brick texture. How that surface receives lighting information is a shader. So don't get confused between the two. You will get the hang of it. And I'm just going to assign it. You can drag and drop on it, or you can click the little assign button over here. It's two cubes, one's green and one's wireframe, and it says assign material to selection. You click on it. And now your background's gray. I think it's too gray, so let's just adjust it. Click on the diffuse color. They both linked, ambient and diffuse. So you just have to change one, it'll change the other. So click on it, and I'm going to make it slightly, let's make it slightly off color. So I'm going to go a bit yellow. More. You can go any color you want. So it's just not white. Just remember, never make everything solid white because it'll blow out, and never make everything solid black because it absorbs too much light. Okay. And now I'm just going to freeze the background. Okay, now I'm going to create a camera. So easiest way to create a camera is grab your object and say I like this composition. Just make sure this background doesn't cut off because you don't want that to be off. I'm going to say this is nice. I'm going to go, actually I want to show you the shadow, so I'm going to bring it a little bit lower. I'm going to go Control C to create the camera from the viewport. If you go Control C, it'll literally create the camera. There we are. You know it because it says camera 1 on the top left here. Okay. And you'll notice because it's a cheesy little icon for a camera. There we go. It's very old school. I had one of the students in the last class saying, geez, it's so old school. Well, it could be like Mudbox. Mudbox is just a box with lines pointing out of it. How the hell do you know that that's a camera? I don't. So there's your camera. Okay. And we're not using scanline. It's too outdated and you're rarely ever going to use it. So now you go right next to the material slot is the render setup. It's a teapot with a little dialog box on it. And we're going to go to the common tab, and by default scanline setup, so you're going to go under assign renderer right at the bottom. Just scroll all the way down. There's an assign renderer. By default it is scanline. You just want to switch it up. So click on it. Go to your common tab. Don't worry about the rest of the tabs for now. Just go straight to the bottom, go assign renderer, and under production you want to click and say mental ray. iRay is a very good renderer, but it's based on how much time you give it. So if you say 10 minutes to render a frame, it gives you the quality that it can in 10 minutes. It might not be the greatest quality, but it's a very good renderer. You get Mental Ray, which is the most commonly used and the most commonly hated because of all the bugs in it, but it's still very competent renderer. Then you got Quicksilver Hardware Renderer. It's a real-time renderer. Okay, so if you've got any characters and you want to see your normal maps in the viewport, and you want to see all your specular maps and see how it would look like in the gaming engine, you switch to Quicksilver. View Renderer is for the view scene files that come from literally from the program view. So if you light it and set it up and render it, you just can say you export to max and it will use the view renderer file. We're going to use Mental Ray. So select Mental Ray, click OK. Now you're using Mental Ray because you can see there's a global illumination tab, and that automatically tells you you are using Mental Ray. Okay, don't worry about all these settings. I will run through them. They are very confusing, and it will take you a while to get the hang of it. By default, Max will set up a default scene, shadow, and light. As you can see, it's already in there. It's just from one direction, not the end of the world. We're going to create our own light. I'm going to hide the camera for now, so I'm going to go under my little, what looks like a little TV display screen, and I'm going to turn off cameras, and it will hide the camera. If you turn off geometry, it hides geometry. Okay, so just remember what you're actually turning off. Okay, I'm going to just convert some of this to polys so you can actually render. Grab those, because those are just lines at the moment, and it's not going to render particularly well if it stays as a spline. So I'm just going to close it. Now we're going to add lights. Everything's in the Create tab again. Go to the Create. You've got your geometry, you've got your splines, you've got your lights, cameras, dummies. We're going to go to lights. By default, it's set to photometric. Those are very expensive, very beautiful shadows and lights, but they take forever to render. For this project, don't worry about it. If you were doing the character and you wanted nice soft shadows on your skin, awesome. Don't use the photometric for now. It takes too long to render. Switch to standard. And now we're going to create a ambient light, which is your skylight, and we're going to create a directional light, which will be your MR area spot. MR is Mental Ray. If you're using Mental Ray, you might as well use the Mental Ray lights. Start off by clicking and creating the skylight. You see, it automatically overrides the scene lighting. I'm going to just put it in the center. This makes no difference where you place this. It's a dome light. It literally puts light from within a dome. That's the best way to describe it. At the moment, I'm going to set it to use scene lighting. So I'm going to go to the realistic. When it lets me, it would be awesome. Thank you. And go lighting and shadows and say scene lights, and it's on, and shadows. Just make sure it's using the scene lights. And give it a moment to build. And you'll notice it starts building some shading. It only does contact shadows. What that means is literally, if your hand is touching the table and there was no sunlight or any directional light, there would still be a contact shadow from your hand touching the table. And that's all it really does, is contact shadows. So if we render it now, let's go make sure. Everything from now on in your life will be rendered HD. So you might as well go to your comment tab, and you'll notice there's HD TV custom. Just go and switch it to whatever you want. In this case, we want HD TV. For rendering purposes, I don't want to render full HD. We're going to be here forever. I'm just going to switch the number down to 720. It will automatically constrain the two, so you can switch it to whatever number you want. I'm going to go to 720 and hope that it doesn't take that long to render. Now we're going to do a test render by pressing Shift Q. Another shortcut, just get used to it. There's lots of them. Right now it'll be pretty washed out. There's only a little bit of contact shadow, as you can see over there. Lots of noise, because that's what bounce of light does in any renderer, is noise. There's ways to limit it, and we will. There's another little contact shadow right at the bottom there. Just because it's right above it, the shadow's stronger there and fades off. The same over there. I don't want to use the skylight as it is. I want to use an HDRI. What an HDRI is, it's a high dynamic range image. So they generally shoot a chrome ball and a 50% gray ball on set if they're shooting it, and that the 50% gray ball captures lighting and the chrome ball captures reflections. Okay, and that's how you get your HDRI. You bring it into Photoshop. There's a HDRI Pro, and it flattens out your chrome balls for you, and all you have to do is paint out the poor photographer who was sitting there photographing all the balls. Okay, so let's go and apply one. You go to your Modify tab, where all your settings will always be, is under your Modify tab. As you can see, there's your light, there's multiplier. If you up the multiplier, for example, it'll make it stronger. So if you go 1, it'll blow it out. 2, 1. That depends on what you want it to look like. So I'm going to set it to about 0.2 for now. It's more than enough. I want to use the image as a source of lighting. So I'm going to click on the none. You're looking for a bitmap. And I've got under the window, the lab PC16, student share, 3D animation 1, 2014. There's a textures folder. There's the HDRIs we'll be using. And there's a whole list, a lot of textures that you can also use. You'll be using next module to texture your characters with. Okay, I'm going to just grab an HDRI. There's the blurred version, which is generally for your reflections, and then there's the crisp version, which is for your lighting. Or vice versa, it's up to you. I'm just going to pick one that I like. That one's pretty nice. So I'm going to open it. It looks like it's literally flattened out from a sphere, because it is. So I'm going to click open. It'll give you this and say, is the lighting right? Is the contrast in the image right? You say, yep. Generally, by default, it is. You can see it already changes the way it looks in the viewport. If you want to see what the actual image is doing, and it needs to be an environment image, not a standard flat image. So it mustn't look flat. It must look like it's warped and wrapped around an object. So drag this image into any of the slots. Click as an instance, because you want one to affect the other. You'll notice the moment I bring it up, it's flat, and that's wrong. You're looking at it, and it's terribly wrong. And it even tells you there, it's based on texture instead of environment. Click on environment, click on spherical, and now you'll notice it's wrapping around now. It looks warped and distorted, and now you know it's right, weirdly enough. I'm going to bring it into the background so you can actually see what's going on. So I'm going to say use background, and I'm going to drag it on. Just make sure that this is the right background image. Say instance. And now we're going to look around, and you can see the image is actually working. It's wrapped around. Okay. Okay. And that's how the HDRI actually works. Now we're going to render it, and the lighting will be different to the previous one. It will be more bluey and more white rather than the yellows. It's all driven by the color in your image. And it's a lot brighter, so I'm going to have to bring it from 0.2 to 0.1 at least. As you can see, everything's nice and soft. I want a directional shadow and light because this is nice and everything, but I actually want to... I'm not going to show you what... If you're looking at it, there's an Let me show you that. IBL, that's image-based lighting. You can turn it on, so it uses... If you had an accurate HDRI, it would use the image to drive where the shadow would be. So if you were shooting a photograph of the sunset, it would actually have the light coming from where the image says the sun is. My HDRIs are lower quality ones, so they won't have any of that. So I'm going to place my own lighting in it. Grab this. This is way too bright. I'm going to set it to 0.1. There we go. Maybe it might be too high, 0.08. And now I'm going to add in a direct light. I'm going to just put in a spotlight. So I'm going to go create tab again. There's an MR area spot. The first one creates the light, and I'm still holding left click. The next one creates where the light points to. So you let go, and there we go. And I'm just going to quickly lift it up. It's blowing out like crazy, and you can see it. So let's go and adjust the cone so we can see what it's actually doing. I'm going to zero out the cone. Under spotlight parameters, you must play around with the lights. You'll see what it does. You can see that there's the cone. The easiest way to actually gauge what's going on is to turn off your area lights. Let me just go to lights only, turn off grab my skylight, and I'm just going to turn it off for now. Okay, and then you can actually see what the spotlights do. Okay, switch to show, and you can see that it's creating a nice little hotspot. Okay, bless you. Let me just kill this image in the background. It's starting to aggravate me. There we go. And it's creating a nice little spot. I don't want that terribly. Just make it bigger so it fits. I don't mind the spot in the middle. Just make the outside cone and the gradient a little bit of a better fall off. So there we go. And this multiply is too high. I'm going to set it to about 0.6. And you can go crazy and do whatever you want with it. You can switch out the color to red. As you can see, it'll make everything red, white, yellow, whatever color you want. Just make it off, slightly off white, because once again it'll blow everything out. Let's do a test. By default it'll be ray trace shadows, which are very hard shadows, so I'll render it quickly for you, and you'll see the shadows particularly very hard. And because we don't have the skylight turned on, you can see black will be very dark. And that's why you add in the skylight, just to add a bit of ambience and make sure the darks are not so dark. Easy way to fix it again is just turn it on. So grab your light. If your light is black, in this case, you see it over here, if I turn it off, it's black. If you turn it on, it's yellow. Okay, let's do another render so we don't get it as dark and see what everything together looks like. The shadow is too hard, so I want to soften the shadow. Because how real shadows work is, if your object is sitting on the floor, the closer the shadow is to the object, the darker it is. The further away the shadow moves away, the softer the shadow becomes. And as you can see, my shadow is way too prominent. It's just insane. Okay, let's let this one finish. I'm going to clone the render image so we have the previous one, so we can compare the two. And now I'm going to go. So, and it's pixelated because we're rendering PAL. The quality is low because it is actually very low. I'm going to grab this. I'm going to just make sure that we can get a decent shadow out of it. So I'm going to go, instead of ray traced, area shadows are the best way to go. Click on area shadows, and to soften an area shadow you have to go under area light parameters. So let me just close everything else off. But I'll run through all of this. This is more important for the next couple of modules, not now. Under your area light parameters, the height is set to 1 and the width is set to 1, depending on your scene file. The number might go higher or lower to blow the shadow, but we can see that Nitrous is trying to compensate, so you can see it's a hard shadow, so we need to go a lot higher. So in this case I'm going to go to it, and go to it and set it to 1000, because I don't know how big this is. And now we just let Nitrous do a little bit of a quick cleanup job, and it's not soft enough. You can see it's starting to soften the edges very subtly. So let's go and set that to even. Always go to the extreme, because that way you'll know if it's working. And let Nitrous do the work, and you can see it's starting to soften off. Let's render this one and see what it looks like. Unfortunately, rendering is tedious, but you'll end up doing a lot of it because there's no way to test your lighting. This area is just telling you that the light you are using is not a mental ray light, and it's using a non-mental ray shadow, which is a lie because you are using a mental ray light and you are using a mental ray shadow. So it's just broken. Just ignore the stupid error, because Max has just decided that mental ray doesn't want to cooperate. As you can see, it's softening the shadow nicely. There it is, compared to the other shadow. We can still soften it. I would like to soften it a lot more. Don't get me wrong, it's nice and it's getting feathered on the edges, but I want to soften it overall a little bit better. So I'm going to go to the light again, close. Some areas you have to take care of, others just ignore it. Like this one, it says it's a mental ray light, it is a mental ray light. Don't listen to the error box. I'm going to set it to 3000. Okay, and just render it again. There, now it's getting nice and soft in the image. You can even see it. That's why the power of Nitrous. I'm sure a lot of you have noticed with your reference images that it does not deal well with lines. The more detailed lines you have in your blueprint, it looks like it's anti-aliased, and it doesn't have anti-aliasing in its crap. It is because that's exactly, it deals with lighting and shading very well. It doesn't deal with lines very particularly well at all, unfortunately. Okay, so if you want to switch out the color, go for it. And now let's just do one more render. It doesn't have to be that snazzy. If you want, I'm going to show you how to do chrome, if you want chrome, or gloss if you really want to. I would just, for me, I'll just render a simple two tones. The reason why I'm using two tones, so then some things pop out versus the others, because there's so much detail in there it can end up getting lost. I'd probably go 3 tones, especially in this area over here, because there's so much happening in it. But if you really want other materials, let's go and I'm going to quickly just hide my lights. So I'm going to go to my display tab, which looks like a little monitor, and turn off lights. I don't need to see it or worry about it. I'm going to go to my watch and open the group, or in this case just ungroup it. And let's go add some chrome. So I'm going to create a new material and call it chrome. I'm going to assign it to, I'm going to grab everything that's probably metallic. There we go. And I'm going to just leave the rest for now, so we can always adjust it afterwards. Just select the ones that you want to be chrome, whatever it might be. I'm going to just select that for now. Assign this material to it. Click on standard. All the materials that are under the standard are for Scanline and for Mental Ray. If you minimize it, you're looking for the Mental Ray tab only. You're going to click on the Arch and Design. And by default, you're getting a nice little reflective little ball with hardly any fall off. It's just decent for like a car paint shader. We are looking for chrome. Luckily enough, because of all the architectural people in the world, they've made our lives easier in Max. They want presets because they don't want to sit there and fight with making decent looking chrome or decent looking wood. So you just drop down and you go, I want chrome. You can see there's matte finish, pearl finish, satin finish, rubber, leather, blah blah. It goes all the way through to the bottom. I'm just going to go and click on chrome. There we go, you got chrome. Okay, dirty chrome's a different story, but for clean surfaces this is the easiest way to go. Let's go create another material just in case you want one. Let's call it brushed metal or satin. No, let's call it satin. Satin, the difference between satin and glossy is satin blurs the reflection more and glossy gives you a perfectly crisp reflection and highlight. That's basically the only difference. But you'll get the hang of all of it. You won't learn all of it now. So don't freak out. I'm just going to grab the outside and assign this material to it for now. And grab those. That and that and that. And then that's all I'm really going to assign, and then you get the hang of it. Click on standard, arch and design, drop down, and then I'm going to click on satin metal. Okay. You can see the difference in the two little display balls. That one's got a long highlight and it's already blurred in the reflection. This one is pretty crisp and clean. That's the difference between the two different chromes. Okay. But don't worry. And now you just render. And everything to do with reflections. If you say my reflection looks crap, 9 out of 10 times it's because it's what it's reflecting is not interesting. Like this reflection might look terrible because I find with chrome and with reflective surfaces, high contrast images work a lot better, like blacks and whites. So if you've got a nice image, just desat it a little bit, shoot out the whites and the blacks, and you'll get a lot more interesting reflections. Because at the moment this is trying to reflect whatever's in the scene. Let's see if there's anything in the scene at the moment. And it's trying to reflect the actual image we've got here, which is not that particularly interesting to reflect, but it is the image that we have in the, as lighting. You can switch it out and put it to anything else you want. But let's see what it renders like. Not the end of the world. I sometimes like to pick that my skylight is a different HDRI to what reflects, especially in the chrome. Chrome is very hard to make look very good. The rest of the materials are a lot easier. And everything metallic and glass takes a lot longer to render in any 3D package because it has to calculate bounce of light, how objects reflect in comparison to any other reflective object, how many times it's reflecting. It takes all of that and has to do all the math and then spit it back out at you. So just be patient with it. The satin's not bad, it just looks like white noise. So I'm just going to switch out the satin to something else so we have at least a better interesting design result. This is terrible. I'm going to switch it to, let's go copper, why not? Make it blingy. Play around, see what it does. I mean, at this stage you can add any shader you want. Just render it. It's showing off the model detail. If you want, go crazy, add metal textures, shaders, not textures, just add in different surfaces. You can go add rubber onto the straps or leather onto the straps, whatever it is. Ah, that's too blingy. But it's okay. And that's how you switch out materials. And chrome always looks better on round surfaces versus flat surfaces because it's got more interesting shapes. A flat surface is flat. It's going to make it boring. Like over there, it looks so nice in that little corner, and then it's flat. Nice corner, flat. It's probably the same over here. It probably looks very nice there, and then the flat looks pretty flat. Pretty boring. It is what it is. Okay. And that's it. Okay, I'm just going to take out this really blingy gold. It's terrible. It's going to make me eyes cry. Let's switch it back to something else. And then you can switch it out to anything else if you want these straps to be black. And this I attached for the reason so I could show it to you. I'm going to make it a rubber strap, so call it rubber, assign it to the whole thing, go to standard, arch design. I'm going to drop down and there's a rubber option. I don't want this to be rubber at the end, I want that to be chrome. So you go into your edit poly mode, select the strap, Control I will select everything else but the strap, go and assign the material, it'll automatically make it into Chrome if you've got it selected. Okay. And now you can render it again, and lighting is one of the trickiest. Lighting real is actually not that difficult. Making things cartoony stuff with a lot of emotion behind it and lighting has to be meaningful is a lot trickier to get right. Especially all surfaces don't receive and react to light beautifully or perfectly. Like you'll notice that all the darker stuff needs a lot more light on it to make it pop it out. And that's why you generally render it in multiple layers so you can control that in post. And then if you're happy with this, you set the final render output. So you go to your render tab. At the moment it's set to 720. Go a minimum of 720p. 720p is half HD. HD is 1920 by 1080. Half HD is 720 by 1280. IMAX is 4K all the way around. 4000 by 4000. And PAL is 720 by 576. Okay. Learn all these resolutions because they do come in handy. And chances are an editor doesn't know because they open Final Cut and there's presets made for them and they 9 out of 10 have no idea what the resolution for PAL is or HD, which is scary. So I'm going to set it to 1280 because I don't want to wait forever. I'm going to render it and that will be my final one. Then you click on the little save option and you save it out. Render a minimum of 4, so go into your perspective, find a nice angle, press Ctrl C, create a camera. And just do that 4 times, hand in your max file, and you're good to go. And you have next week left, and you'll be handing in week 8. And that's it. Okay. So you still have this week and next week, so just pump out as quickly as you can and graft as hard as you can. And as you notice, just because we've gone 4 times PAL size, it's taking a while. But it's a little bit more crisp. There we go. If any of you are having issues with the lighting, don't stress. I can also do a template lighting setup and you just put your model in the middle and Bob Jug. Because this module is not really about lighting. Lighting will only come into module 3 heavily. So for now it's not really then. Just make sure everything in your models, all the work you put into it reads well. And that you didn't do it for nothing and it's sitting there and you go, oh, it looks terrible. And for professional usage, rarely do you render something out of Max and that's where it stops. It never stops there. You render it in multiple layers and you bring it into After Effects or Combustion or Digital Fusion or whatever comp package you want, and you eventually comp it all together